Good morning. We're headed in for what is traditionally known as a buyer's market in Dublin, as in property prices aren't rising, and in some markets like Dunleary Rathdown, they're falling. However, for buyers buying in this market, it's not particularly reassuring to know that if you pay X for the property, it's going to be worth X minus quite a bit, or maybe a little bit, in the next few years, as in it's going to fall. So while it's called a buyer's market, it's not a lovely market for buyers to act in. So in today's video, I want to share 3 thoughts that may be helpful for buyers buying in this market. The first is that it really depends on how long you're buying a property for. As we've seen, property cycles move in 7 to 10 year stretches. So, for example, they go up for 7 to 10 years and then prices go down for 7 to 10 years. So if you're living in the property for the length of a property cycle, perhaps it doesn't matter whether on paper your property is worth less if you don't in fact intend to realise the value of that property and you're actually going to live in it through the downturn until the next upcycle comes again. So that's the first point. Perhaps it doesn't matter what the paper value of your property is, because property cycles, as we've seen, tend to bring the value both down and then up again in 7 to 10 year cycles. The second thing is that properties in general hold their value relative to one another. For example, if you were to buy a house in Foxrock for 1.5 million today, and at today's prices it's worth, let's say, 5 houses in Crumlin, even if the property market falls or if it rises, it will be, in most cases, worth the same number of houses in Crumlin. So at the very peak it'll be worth 5 houses in Crumlin, and at the very trough it'll be worth 5 houses in Crumlin. So property prices tend to hold their value relative to one another, and that is often relevant for people who are selling property because they're usually moving on to buy another property with the proceeds. And the third point is that it's hard to tell the exact trough of a falling market in advance. So by trying to do it, you might just exhaust yourself and possibly risk buying the right house for you. For example, it's rare that anyone calls the absolute height of the boom anyone calls the absolute lowest point of the fall, except it's only visible in hindsight. So if you're actually trying to buy at the very best possible time, you'll probably drive yourself mad, and you may actually risk buying the right property for you by passing it up on the basis that you don't want to pay that much for it. So there are 3 thoughts that I hope are useful to you as a buyer in this market, and if you need me, give me a shout. My website is breffneyokelly.ie. Thanks for watching. Good luck.